In this section, we will first learn how consumers base their decisions, how they make their consumption choices, and afterwards, the chapters to follow will be focused on the producer side. The consumer side is based on this idea that consumers want to maximize their utility or their satisfaction, their happiness, subject to a certain budget constraint when they're making their consumption decisions. So to understand this, we need to first understand what a budget constraint is and how we could replicate it or how we could set it up graphically, and what represents our different levels of happiness, how could we represent this, and how that's different. And then by putting the two together, we could see how the optimal consumption of a certain individual, such as myself, may be a little bit different than someone else with the same salary and everything else. So this is very person dependent when it comes to indifference curves, which we'll see in a second. So for now, let's just think about budget constraints. So here is a simple example where we have the consumption of pizza and cola. And let's say a consumer decides to allocate a certain portion of its budget. We'll generalize the different options in the future, but you allocate simply $10 between the consumption of cola and pizza per week. And the price of cola is $1 and the price of pizza is $2. Well, with that, we could see that the maximum amount that someone can consume of either would be 10 units of cola if they only consume cola, 5 units of pizza if they only consume pizza. Here, if we wanted to look at situations where they don't only consume pizza and cola, here are other options where we still spend the whole $10. And we'll see it's important to spend the whole $10. Otherwise, this is just to make it simple, is the situation where if it's not spent, this could be a gift certificate or something else, this money would be lost. So here, if I don't buy any cola, but I buy 5 units of pizza at $2 each, I spend $10. If instead I buy 2 colas at $1 and 4 pizzas at $2, well, I'm spending $8 on cola, $8 on pizza, $2 on cola, as mentioned here, spending 10 in total, and so on and so forth. These are my different examples. Okay. So I'm going to represent this graphically because we see that all the intermediate possibilities are the same, and the trade-off between cola and pizza is always the same. We're in a situation here that pizza is always double the cost as cola is. Okay. So here, let's represent this graphically. As with many graphs, I tend to ask which of the two items would you put on the vertical axis, which of the two items would you put on the horizontal axis. In this case, it doesn't matter. If you set up one way or the other, it doesn't really matter. It's just everything else has to follow in that direction. But otherwise, it's for you to choose which of the two you wish to put on which of the axes. So in this section here, what I want to represent is I want to represent all my possible combinations of purchases that leads to me spending my whole budget. So here, if I have my quantity of cola, and here I could have quantity of pizza, it could have been the opposite. So first off, I just draw the quarter points. So if I only consume cola, I've seen that since it's $1 a cola, I could consume 10 units. And here for pizza, if I only can consume pizza and 0 cola, well, then I would have a situation where I could consume 5 units of pizza. And anything in between, this would be a straight line, represents my budget constraint. Okay. So the examples I had on the previous slide represent a bunch of examples that accept this. So we could have the example that we had 1 slice of pizza with 8 units of cola, 2 slices of pizza with 6 units of cola, 4 and 3, and 2 and 4. Okay, all of those options would work. So here, any point along the budget constraint, what's special about it is that all of these points represent a situation where I am spending all of my budget. Okay. Any point on the inside over here would be a situation, so a point here would be a situation, or this point here would both be situations where I am not spending all my budget. And if we think of a gift certificate, so I'm not spending all of my gift certificate, here we have some form of waste. Okay. That situation there is being wasted. Okay, and how about over here, any of these points here? Well, any of these points are things that are simply over my budget. A lot of you may simply say, well, pull out the credit card, but in this case here, let's just assume that when you don't have the money for something, you do not spend it. You don't have the option of going on credit. Okay, so these are your options. And naturally here, if you had a gift certificate, anything inside here is wasteful, anything here is unachievable and you cannot obtain them. So you would want to be anywhere along this budget constraint. But where would be the optimal spot to be? What's the optimal consumption bundle that you would choose? Would it be 1 slice of pizza with 8 colas, or 6 and 2, and so on and so forth? For some of you, it would probably be more pizza slices and just 1 cola because you don't want to stock up on it. But if on the other hand, here I had a typical Wednesday night at the Lion, and I had here beer, and over here I had wings, well, maybe you're going to actually consume less wings and consume more beer and so on and so forth. So to know which of these points is your optimal consumption bundle, it depends on your own preferences. So we're going to go through indifference curves and preferences in the next video to determine whether yourself, you might prefer being here, I myself might prefer being here. That's really based on your preferences.